Morning everyone, welcome to Communities Committee and thank you for your attendance. We'll dive straight in then please. The minutes of the last meeting held on the 15th of September. Is everyone happy with the recorded minutes? Thank you very much. Apologies for absence. Thank you, Noel.
No apologies received. We have a full house today.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest by members and officers. Do any members or officers present have a disclosable pecuniary interest to declare? No. Do any members or officers present have any private interests, either pecuniary or non-pecuniary, to declare? Yes, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I run Brinsley Food Bank, so that might come up.
Is that in respect of which item?
Item 4, okay, thank you. You're up, Noel. Thank you. So before we go to item 4, I'd like to go to the urgent decision item for the Household Support Fund. And there are recommendations there for that, which I'll do before I pass over to Mark Walker. Excuse me. That the Communities Committee provides oversight on the elements of the Household Support Fund not led by the Children and Young People's Committee. Number 2, recommendation further detailed development by officers of the Nottinghamshire Household Support Fund scheme based on the principles set out in the report. Number 3, the launch of the scheme by mid-November or as soon as possible afterwards. And 4, that a further report be brought to committee in December 2021 to ratify the confirmed scheme. So I'd like to propose that. Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
I second that, Chair.
Thank you. And if Mark's with us, you're still with us, Mark?
Yep,
thank you very much.
Online.
Can I pass over to you, please?
Yeah, thank you. And apologies for the lateness of this item. But given the need in the community and the timeframes involved, as we've set out in the report, it really needed to come to today's meeting. So thank you all for allowing that. As you can see from the report, the government has allocated 5.6 million to the County Council as the upper tier local authority to support those most in need this winter. The funding must be spent by the end of March 2022, so that puts us under some time pressure. And the County Council has been asked to design a scheme based on local priorities to apply this funding and to do that by working with district and borough council partners. As you'll see from the report, on Monday, the Children and Young People's Committee took a decision to apply 2.3 million of the 5.6 million pot to give vouchers to up to 27,500 children to provide entitled to free school meals to give them food during the 5 weeks of holiday left between now and the end of March. That does leave a balance of 3.3 million, and it's felt appropriate that this committee should be the appropriate committee to oversee how that funding is applied. In order to bring that to life, we've had 2 meetings now with partners to begin the design of the scheme for Nottinghamshire. And that we've done, or is being done at the moment, based on learning from designing and operating 2 previous similar schemes. And so I'm pleased to say that consensus has been achieved on this sort of the high level principles. And again, that's set out in the report, but essentially it is we're going to have the same scheme for the whole county has been suggested, and that the scheme focuses on supporting those in immediate needs, but primarily with food, energy and water bills and essentials linked to energy and water bills. In exceptional cases, it will also be used to support with white goods, wider essentials, and to support housing costs. Frontline officers working for the county, the council, the borough and district councils, and plus other organisations, relevant organisations, will be using their knowledge and understanding of the need to try and identify and assess the needs of relevant residents, check their eligibility, and make a request for financial support. The County Council, we would receive and process the applications to ensure consistency, to make sure appropriate anti-fraud measures are in place, and of course provide monitoring information to government in order for us to reclaim the funding back. In order to access the money, we needed to provide a delivery plan to government by last Friday, and we did that based on our best estimates at this stage. and work is at the moment going on to design the detail. We've agreed some of the high level principles and we're now working on the detail. So that's working on eligibility criteria and also the exceptions process. So we're doing that in order to give the professionals and people out there clarity on what this scheme is going to be, how it's going to operate. And again, we met yesterday with colleagues, a very positive meeting there to sort of pin down some of that detail. And as I said, because of the work we need to do at speed to design and launch it, we're seeking approval today to continue to develop the scheme with partners with a view to launching it by mid-November and bringing a report to the next Communities Committee on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. Any members of the committee wish to ask any questions or comments? Thank you, Councillor Guilfoyle.
No, just to express our thanks to Mark for briefing us earlier this morning on the issue. And just to say, John, obviously it's a lot of the detail has still got to come about how it's going to be distributed, but it would be very good, one of the main outcomes for us, it would be very good if members have got knowledge of how they can put people through to access this fund when it's up and running, who the key people are in each of the districts, who, or whether it be centrally here, who we can say, you know, refer an individual or an organisation that comes forward with people who are in need.
Thanks, Glenn. Any other questions or comments? Do you want to come back on that, Mark? Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, Daniel. Thank you.
Daniel, just wanted to, obviously on behalf of the independent group, that wholeheartedly welcome and support this paper. No issue at all with it coming so shortly in time, and I want to thank Mark for making us aware of it and giving us much information as was possible. I think it is really important. I really do welcome it. We have got what seems like a bit of a looming child poverty crisis in some areas. Obviously, free school meal claimants have gone up in the county, something that's particularly a problem in Ashfield and Mansfield. So I think this fund would really help. Obviously, there's a few elements in how it will be targeted, and similar to Councillor Guilfoyle, I'd like to have a bit more information on how we can push that in our local areas and make things happen. But also just a bit of a question, because obviously we already have ways that can be quite strong indicators of who would need this, so such as people who are accessing universal credit claimants, people like that. Are we going to proactively target people who are in receipt of items like that first, seeing as they obviously would seem to be the ones most in need at this point? That's everything.
Thank you very much. Mark? Oh, Derek, sorry. Yeah, okay, Mark. I'll get there in the end.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for those questions and comments. Yeah, in terms of yeah, we are working up the detail, and certainly we will put together a document to help members understand how they can channel people to get into the system, as it were. As I mentioned earlier during our briefing, very happy for people, members, if they've got any questions as we go through the design process, they can obviously talk to me directly internally while we set the team up, etc., in order to answer any questions that you have. In terms of what the approach is going to be, as I say, that we're in the design phase. Any feedback, and the feedback that we've received this morning here, I will take back and put into the steering group. At the moment, the primary approach that's being suggested, and I say this is based on learning from delivery of 2 previous schemes, is that it will be frontline professionals that are in contact with families and households that will be identifying and will be referring in, or take the decision to apply the funding, if you like, and then vouchers would be issued to those people. The eligibility criteria we're currently looking at involves but does specifically mention people in terms of that are in receipt of a range of benefits, and also other people that aren't, that might be in need as well. So, but I take on board everything that's been said this morning, and we'll take that back and feed it into the steering group. And I'm very happy. Yeah, local members clearly very important in terms of understanding need out there, and we will work hard to make sure that you're engaged in the process as we go forward.
Thank you, Mark. And also, I'd like to thank you and the team for getting this up and running at the speed you have done. We'll look forward to some details going forward from you. So can you take that back to the team for me, please?
I will do. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the vote then, if that's okay with everyone. And those in favour of the recommendations, please show. Thank you, that's unanimous. The next item is the communities report for Q1, and I'll get the right page in a minute. So the recommendation on this item is consider whether there are any actions it requires in relation to the performance of information on the Council Services for Communities Committee for the period of April the 1st to the 30th of June 2021. Thank you, Derek. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Very briefly then, members, this report outlines our performance within the services that this committee is responsible for, community services broadly. As the Chairman has said, for the first quarter, 1st of April to the 30th of June 2021, and we outline both our service performance and also our financial performance too, in appendices 1 and 2 to the report. The report itself provides some commentary on both performance and budgetary matters. Either myself or other colleagues are happy to take any questions that members may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. And in my excitement to pass it over to you, I need a seconder for the recommendations. I'm just testing everybody again today. Thank you, Tom.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much. It's open to committee. Any members wish to speak to it? Thank you, Councillor Allen.
I noticed that there's a lot of organisations here that have been given... Aren't we on that one? I'll just put my hand
it's
down
item
then.
4.
I'll shut up. I've turned
Okay,
over
thank
several
you.
pages at once.
We'll look forward to you on the next item.
It's fine. I can keep speaking if you like.
It's one of those days, isn't it? Thank you,
We're
Councillor
new to
Guilfoyle.
it.
Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, as we can see, you know, the reporting that is impact from COVID. I think just on two of the points. One is Home Pierpoint, where we've forecasting the 300,000. Just wondered what during the last month or so, people have had a tendency to go out and about more. Just wondered whether we'd seen any improvement at Home Pierpoint over that period. Obviously, financially, it won't reflect in this. And then the other one is obviously schools catering, which is a substantial overspend. And I just wondered how that picture's shaping up now, whether that is getting back to some normality on that one, Chairman.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Guilfoyle. I'll pick up on the school catering question, and then Mick will pick up on Home Pierpoint. So in terms of school catering, absolutely it's been a really difficult 18 months because, of course, pupils haven't been at school as much as they would normally be. And there's also increased reticence from parents to purchase school meals for their children. Mums and dads have been more likely to send children to school with packed lunches for kind of hygiene reasons, I suppose, as much as anything. So we're certainly seeing, even though pupils are now back at school on what will hopefully be a permanent basis, we're still seeing signs of slowdown in uptake of school meals, and that obviously is impacting upon take-up of the service. We don't anticipate that situation will get back to kind of pre-COVID circumstances probably until the next financial year, now the final term, if you like, of the current school year. We're also seeing a range of issues that are more operational with our catering service as well, which has, to a certain extent, some financial impact as well. And they relate to cost increases and supply chain pressures that have been really well documented in the kind of national media around food supply issues. So we're having to be very flexible with that service in terms of ensuring that we can continue to offer high quality school meals to our pupils. Because from time to time, some ingredients aren't available for a short period of time. We're also seeing some real pressure on our staff team as well. COVID has resulted in lots of turnover and recruitment, as is the case now in many parts of the service sector, is a real issue for us. So we're having to be really flexible in how we manage our staffing arrangements in around about 200 schools. As well. So there's a range of pressures and some of that is reflected therefore in the kind of financial performance of the service. As I say, in short terms, I don't think that will stabilise now until the next financial year. I'll ask Mick to just pick up on the Home Pierpont question.
Yep, thanks, Derek. Yeah, Home Pierpont, I think the numbers across all of our country parks since the end of June have been generally pretty good. Home Pierpont had a good summer. I think the last month's figures that we've seen, which is September, were down again slightly. Whether that's weather related or whatever, yeah, it's always very difficult to judge. But I think the numbers over the summer have been good on all of them. They're hopeful that the October half term will again have improved the position slightly. But as you're aware, and as we've talked about previously, I think at this committee and others, in effect, the income over the summer, spring-summer, particularly supports those sites over the winter period, over the quiet months. So the fact that they didn't actually get to reopen until towards the end of June is going to have an impact over the year, which is why those figures are as they are. But I think certainly since the economy has started to reopen, the sites, all of them are reporting significant numbers of people through the doors on the sites, buying food. Some of the events are still struggling to recover, and that's a particular impact at Home Pierpont, where they have obviously significant events at weekends, which bring in those revenue streams outside of the basic fees for using the site, you know, in effect the food and beverage sales that generate the income. So it's not going to be something that happens that's resolved overnight. In effect, I think the deficit, but I think if we get into next spring on the back of a reasonably sensible position around COVID and also decent weather over the winter, then we should be in a good position to allow those sites to grow again in the way that they were doing pre-pandemic.
Thank you, Mick. Thank you, Derek. Councillor Williamson. Daniel. Sorry, I'll come to you in a minute, Pauline. I'm saving you till last. I'll come to you next.
I'm happy to let Councillor Allen go first if she wishes. All right, thank you very much. A couple of questions. My first one actually relates to Home Pierpont as well. Obviously, I appreciate the explanation of why around the financing was something that obviously I picked up on last time. Considering obviously the amount of money that has gone in there now and on the overspend, just wondering what we're doing as a council to try and bring that spending, I suppose, under control a little bit. I appreciate there's a bit of a wait and see with having recently reopened from events, but is there anything that we're doing proactively with them to try and manage this, or are we just waiting until next spring in the hope that it picks up and business as normal is resumed? The other one that I have is just in regards to this paragraph 18, where it talks about the trading standards of forecasting an overspend of 151,000 due to lower expected commercial incomes. For my own satisfaction, really, can I just ask for more information on where this overspend has occurred? I mean, I'm fairly certain that during COVID, trading standards would have paused a lot of their visits to commercial premises. What could you just give me a few examples of what the commercial income is that they're expecting to receive, and just so I can understand where the difference lies as well? It's everything from me.
Do you want to take it first, Derek, and then if Mick wants to add to that, then we can do it that way.
So just in terms of the Home Pierpont Country Park, what we're looking to do is to work with Home Pierpont Leisure Trust and Serco to generate a different management arrangement in the future, probably that we'll be able to put in place for the start of the next financial year, and it's something that's been discussed and agreed as an approach at this committee as well. And that will see us hopefully from the start of the next financial year return to the pre-pandemic funding position for Home Pierpont, which broadly speaking sees us subsidise that site to the tune of about £150,000 a year. So that's kind of a return to steady state from next year. It is worth saying as well that the additional funding that we've put in place over the last 18 months for Home Pierpont has come from it's come from COVID-related funding from the government as opposed to directly from council reserves or the revenue budget. As far as trading standards are concerned, a significant proportion of the services budget is generated from commercial activity, which is effectively support for businesses to enable them to ensure that their products, their services are compliant with a whole range of legal and customer service kind of requirements. Because there's been so much flux in the world of business over the last 18 months, a number of those partners that we've developed long-term relationships with have either paused or ceased those relationships because they themselves their trading arrangements have changed, and that means that our income has reduced significantly as a result of that. And we've got one or two larger scale contractual relationships that for which that is absolutely a factor. We would anticipate, again, it's a bit of a theme, that things will recover over the next year, but at the moment we're probably being conservative in our forecasts about what that might mean in terms of lost income this year. I suspect we'll probably start to see that gap close during the remainder of the year, to be honest, and the service is also looking at ways that it can cut costs in the meantime to ensure that at the end of the year its budget balances. At the moment I wouldn't have significant concerns about the overspend. I would expect that will come down during the remainder of the year.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you. Councillor Allen, would you like to...
Is it my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn now.
I nearly went to sleep.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
It's quite all right. This is really a bit of insider information about Home Pierpont, as my granddaughter is on a rowing course there. And what they're finding is that the courses are cancelled at short notice and spasmodically. So if you're a parent, you know that if you don't know what's happening next with your children and grandchildren and whatever. So it's just a comment like, could somebody keep an eye on it, really? Because it is causing negative feelings, not about the course is great, but you know, when the instructor rings up and says, I can't do it today for some reason, can we do it another day? Well, parents are not always that flexible, and I just think it's a negative impression that I'm getting that you could do something about. Maybe even 2 days notice, as you know, is better than that. It's very short notice, you know. No, we can't do tomorrow. We can't do today. Can we do tomorrow? Doesn't usually happen with parents.
So I shall pass that to Derek to give you a response. Thank you.
Really?
Yeah.
2 for the price of 1.
Yep.
Certainly we'll pick that up.
Thanks,
Councillor Allen, thank you for that. It may well be kind of surmising that Home Pierpont colleagues are suffering from the same kind of sudden COVID-related absences that we're seeing within the council as well at the moment. But that's certainly something we'll
I understand that, but I know you're going to lose customers if you don't sharpen it. Really. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Elizabeth Williamson. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm pleased that the opening hours of our libraries have been extended post-COVID, but concerned about paragraph 8, which highlights the problem of physical visits to the libraries. With just over 100,000 physical visits, I've got worries that the library estate might not be fit for purpose. as more and more residents go online. What are Inspire doing to encourage footfall into the libraries, including creating community hubs to safeguard the future of our physical libraries? They're well placed to play a role in community hubs because of their existing position of trust within local communities and the contribution they make across a range of agendas. Will this council do a future report into increasing footfall in the libraries and look at bringing more services into libraries and events? Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you for the question. Absolutely, we are seeing a significant reduction in physical visits to libraries. I think our assessment and the assessment of Inspire colleagues is that that is in part due to the fact that we're still in the act of reopening all of our 58 libraries across the county and bringing them back to their pre-COVID opening hours. That's largely complete now, but it's taking, understandably, communities a little bit of time to get back into the habit, if you like, of visiting libraries. And of course, there's still residual concern amongst a number of library users, despite the fact that all of our library spaces are COVID safe, about visiting those kind of facilities. In terms of the fitness for purpose of our core libraries estate, my view would be that in large part our estate matches that that you'd see anywhere else in the country in terms of appropriateness of environment, quality of the provision, and the interior quality of the libraries themselves. Obviously that varies from site to site. We have some brand new purpose-built provision and some that's much more traditional in its scope, of course. But we have invested a lot of money as a council over the last few years and continue to do so in improving the kind of customer environment for our libraries. So I think we've got a good story to tell there. As far as community hubs are concerned, absolutely, both ourselves and Inspire colleagues are more than open to explore with local communities how we can bring other services into our library provision, or indeed co-locate our existing library provision in other, alongside other services, potentially in other locations as well. Obviously that needs to work for all of the partners and the public as well. But we're more than happy to pick up that kind of community hub conversation on a case-by-case basis, and we've got some really good examples of where that works really well. Cotgrave Library and Community Hub is perhaps the most modern and up-to-date example of that. So if there are specific opportunities in your area, Councillor Williamson, Mick and I'd be more than happy to broker some conversations with you about that, to explore what's possible. As far as kind of broader plans to bring customers back to libraries, we can absolutely include some commentary on that in a forthcoming report to committee. What I would say is that in Nottinghamshire, our return to normal operating and opening hours in libraries is notably quicker than in many other parts of the country. And over the last 8 to 9 years or so, we've tended to buck the trend nationally of declining visits to libraries. In Nottinghamshire, our visit numbers have been largely stable, and I think that indicates the quality of the provision that we've got, and also the quality of the service that Inspire provide for us as well.
Thank you, Derek. I think also, just to say with the library reopening hours, is that my library only opened, well, it opened straight away, but it was only doing 1.5 days. It's now gone back to its normal service last week. And councillors have been receiving emails when their libraries have come back to full working hours, but we've had to phase it again because of COVID and the staff issues that came with it, because we've had people retire, we've had people move to different jobs, the same as the catering side of it has. So it's been a slower process, but quicker than most other councils have done. Thank you. I'll pass you over to Councillor Guilfoyle, who wants to come back, I think, on the question that he asked.
Well, two points. One, the first one was about trading standards, and obviously where you mentioned that you were looking at perhaps savings internally that you could make. And I'd have a bit of a concern on that, because that, you know, especially if it had got staffing implications. I mean, obviously, as you know, when I was cabinet member, that the trading arm was what we set up, and I'm glad that it's gone on to deliver the sort of income that it has. I mean, I think it was envisaged that it would do about 750,000 this year, if I remember rightly. So I do read my papers, you see. And clearly, you know, 150,000 down, in my view, is still positive, because, you know, you would have expected from the business that it had derived and the challenges that have been out there in the business community. Actually, it might have been more than that. You know, really hit it, and that was always has been one of my worries, that when you run a service and part of it is on generating income, if that income's not generated, what impact does that have on the service? And my view is that it's a blip over due to COVID. I think we should carry that and keep, you know, not do anything drastic with the service, because I'll be worried, because I think that the individuals who are running this service will go out there and generate that income. They've done it before, and I know they've had wobbles along the way, thinking, oh, well, will we make it work? But they've actually gone out there and done it, and they've really achieved a brilliant success, I think, with that service on its income. And it's a niche that Nottinghamshire's got, you know, because we know there's not many, in fact, I don't know very few that do that particular service, if any. So I would hate if we're going to tinker in at staffing levels, in my mind, because also that has an impact on other service areas as well. Because when they're not doing that, they get, you know, as you know, they rotate the officers. They'll be doing enforcement side on one occasion, and then the other side it's about business advice and generating the income. So I would hate us to go and reduce the service level. The other one I was actually going to bring up about the libraries, John, in relation to the cultural strategy, and it was just some of the where it talks in the implications for service users, and I probably reading between the lines wrongly, perhaps. It was reading as if because we've done more, particularly, and it says about success of remote, mobile and virtual library services. And I was going, are we saying that's going to have an impact on our buildings? You know, because unfortunately, County Council has got at this point in time where it's saying, and I'll use children's services as an example, Sure Start, where we've got the view now, well, we don't need buildings, we work from within the community, and we go to the people. And I don't think we can do that with a library. I don't actually think we ought to be doing it with Sure Start personally, but I would hate us to go down and then sort of saying, well, we're now going to be reliant on some nice large ones, like the one we've got in Worksop, brilliant, but some of the peripheral will get shut off because, well, we can do it virtually now. So just, I was just reading between the lines.
I think you know me, Glyn, don't you?
I do, but
yeah.
You know, you also know I'm going to be honest with you and say what I think, and hopefully you, like me, will fight to keep our libraries open.
Yeah. No, but fair comment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Guilford. So happy to confirm that there aren't any intentions to reduce staff and establishment in trading standards. And I suspect I'm not breaking any confidence just to say that the current administration is absolutely committed to retaining the current network of physical libraries.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from any other members? Okay, we'll go to the vote then, please. Those in favour of the recommendations, please show. Thank you, that's unanimous. Item 5, the approval of applications to the COVID Partnership Social Recovery Fund and the Community Hub Food Plan Fund. The recommendations, and I'll try and remember to get a seconder for this, approves the applications for funding recommended in Appendix A and review, secondly, to approve the applications that have received partnership approval as set out in Appendix 2. I'll propose that, and I'd like a seconder, please.
I will second that, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I think we're over to Mark again. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. Members will recall from previous committees approving the establishment of these two funds. Also, the process by which the applications were identified and to be approved by the authority and its partners. We agreed that for applications for over 5,000 for both funds, approval would be by this committee. For applications under 5,000, they could be approved by members of the Local Resilience Forum Humanitarian Assistance Group, but brought to this committee for oversight. Appendix 1 to this report contains the details of those projects reviewed and endorsed by the partnership for over 5,000 for approval by this committee. There's 11 for the Social Recovery Fund and 9 under the Food Fund. And Appendix 2 provides the details of those projects, 5,000 or under, that have already been approved. And there's 1 under the Social Recovery Fund and 9 Food Fund ones. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions or comments from members? Councillor Allen.
I forget where my questions are getting to nowadays. It was good to see all these groups and associations that are receiving funds and growing through this. I have a few people, a few groups who have emerged since, certainly since your list, because they're not on it, or they're less than 5,000. Is there any thought to continuing these groups to make sure they carry on and don't just die, don't just have the fact that the COVID is perhaps gone? There is still a need in the community, and while ever there's a need, can we have some encouragement? You know, have a local church thing run on very little money and very few people and some volunteers. With a bit of encouragement, they could grow a little bit and continue to serve the community until such time as it's not needed, which will probably be far down the line of me being a councillor. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Allen. Can you come back on that one, Mark, for me, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that question, Councillor Allen. Yeah, absolutely. We're spending a lot of time again with partners trying to work out how we can best support the groups in the community and voluntary sector. We've obviously the funds you're looking at today are COVID related, so to COVID Social Recovery Fund and food, with regards to the food supplies that have been affected by the pandemic. But of course, last week we launched the Local Communities Fund, so there's an opportunity there for groups to apply for funding there. And as I say, as part of the work that we're doing across the legacy work, if you like, from the pandemic, we're continuing to have those conversations with all partners about how can we as a partnership meaningfully and effectively support the sector. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, yep. Councillor Williamson. Elizabeth Williamson, sorry.
I think, excuse me, I need to declare an interest in this agenda item as well. I didn't say it before. So I welcome this report and wholeheartedly support all the applications via the Social Recovery Fund. COVID-19 didn't have many positives, but to look through these applications makes me proud to be from Nottinghamshire. Whether it be the work of food banks, citizens' advice, volunteers running allotments and community gardens, help for the lonely and most vulnerable, social eating projects and much more. COVID-19 has helped strengthen charities and voluntary groups across Nottinghamshire. In Brinsley, the experience of helping run a food bank was life-changing for me, and many thousands of volunteers, whether doing it before or after COVID, have helped save lives. This council should be proud that they're continuing to support our voluntary sector, and I wholeheartedly support these applications. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else with any questions? Councillor Daniel Williamson. And I'll come to Councillor Guilford.
Thanks, Chair. It was actually less question and more of a comment, but I wanted to wholeheartedly throw my weight behind this as well and say how proud I am to to support these projects and support the applicants. Obviously, vast majority of these groups run solely on volunteers, and it'd be very remiss of me if I wasn't to highlight one from my own area in Ashfield, Let's All Eat, who do a fantastic amount of work in the community. I can vouch for it. I've seen it firsthand all throughout the pandemic, reaching out, making community connections, educating children about healthy living and providing them with the support they need. And Let's All Eat in particular, a fantastic group who have gone out and reached out to community church groups, to the local schools. So I really wanted to highlight their work, and if the rest of the groups on here, the ones that I'm not aware of, putting even 2/3 of the effort that Let's All Eat do, which I'm sure they all do, then I think we're supporting some fantastic projects here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Guilford?
Yes, Chairman, there's still a considerable amount of money left unallocated, and I just wondered whether there was a particular timescale for this to be completed by. And another, just the issue on, we started in communities with not many staff, and implicating, I just wondered whether how the staff are doing, because clearly we haven't got that many within that department, and you've also got the new fund that's coming on that I'm sure they'll end up having a role in, and just wondering, whether, and I've spoken here before about strengthening that team, whether that work is being looked at, because clearly, there is still a lot of work to be done, and for every one of these bids, there is a lot of work for them to go through to make sure that, that they're doing what we say that they're doing, and auditing and everything else. It's no simple task. Even the £2,000 ones, people have got to review it and make sure it's so. As I say, have we got the right capacity in there? But yeah, fully support this. I thought our colleague from Ashfield was going to turn around and say that there wasn't enough being spent in Ashfield, which was, what we normally hear. But I think everybody can say that it's been spread around the county, as you can see.
Thanks, Lynn. Do you want to come on back on that, Mark?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Guilford, for that. In terms of timescales, so the two different funds have different timescales. So the Social Recovery Fund, we can, because it's Nottinghamshire County Council monies, we can spend that and go over the year end. So if we haven't applied it by the end of March, that's not a problem. The food, because it's coming, we've been using government contained funding, and that's got a time limit of the end of March next year. We need to apply that money by then. What I would say is that there are a number of, this is the first set of applications we've brought to you for approval. There are a number of that are still in process and will be brought to future committees. So there are many in train to make sure that we apply the funding, as it were. With regards to staffing, yes, it's been very challenging. The communities team has been asked to pick up a lot of new roles, etc. So that's involved reprioritising work, parking some things. With the new, with the fund we spoke about earlier, the Household Support Fund, obviously the team will be heavily involved with that, but we are currently going out to look for temporary secondments to create the capacity in order to support the team to do that. But we are constantly reviewing what the staffing levels are like in there. And we, as you probably do recall, that we were able to create an additional post at a previous committee and dedicate one of the team members to armed forces work. So it is tight, but we're reprioritising. It's tight for a lot of people out there, and we'll continue to look at the structures. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Councillor Adams, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to quickly say, really, that it's great to see this continued support, and also great to hear there's more to come. I think if I'm going to blow the trumpet of somebody in my own patch, then I think the Netherfield Forum deserve a shout. They've done a lot of work, hundreds of meals. I've witnessed it. The machine that operates in that kitchen, and the incredible work that they do. And that this 6,495 is incredibly welcome, and Gedling to get a further share of 142,300 in one way or another is very welcome indeed. So just wants to say thank you very much for all the work that's gone into it, and it's really having a positive benefit and effect to the people that need it. So thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, any other comments? Okay, we'll go to the vote then. The recommendations we've had. Those in favour, please show. Thank you, that's unanimous. Thank you, Mark. Item 6 is the Cultural Services Strategy Refresh. Over to you, Mick.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, members will recall that back in July they approved a proposal to refresh the Cultural Services Strategy. My colleague Aidan's been working really hard on producing a draft for that over the last 2-3 months now, which aligns with the Visitor Economy Strategy, the Emerging Local Plan, Emerging Council Plan, and using the work that's been done through the Big Knot survey to inform the public view around our cultural services stuff. Just quickly to address Councillor Guilfoyle's comments earlier, it's about growing the service. It's not about finding a way of chopping it about. It really is about building on the strengths that we've got organisationally and that we've got with our partnerships across a range of cultural offers, be that country parks, but into Inspire as well. There's a draft of that strategy attached. We'd welcome comments through from members of the committee, which we'll then use to refine that a little bit before we go out to consultation with our partners over hopefully the next couple of months, so that we can come back early in the new year with a finalised strategy, which will be hopefully less wordy. No offence, Aidan. It is the words that are put together at the moment. It will be more attractive, I think, as a document down the line. But that piece of work around making it a bit sexier will be done once we've got the content right, I think.
Thank you, Mick. Before I ask for any questions or comments, I'd like to propose the recommendations. Tell I had holiday last week, can't you? So one is comment on the draft cultural strategy service at Appendix A. We agree it, and we agree a further report on the final refresh strategy, accounting for member and partner input, being presented at a committee in early 2022. I'll propose that recommendation. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Councillor Guilfoyle?
Welcome the strategy. As you say, it's top level stuff, isn't it? What I would be more, and I'm sure members will, is the delivery plan, and because that's really what we more get to grips with, looking at the delivery plan and the outcomes of that. So when will that be done? That's a challenge.
After this is, I think, is the honest answer. You're right, absolutely. This is around a strategic vision for what we want. What we need is to get that into a position where it reflects where we are today and some of the impacts from COVID and all the other things that we need to be aware of in developing that service. But obviously we'll also then be working with individual services at a level with them to look at how we can grow that offer and develop that offer. So I think that'll start hopefully into spring next year once we've got the strategy done. But we're already having some of those conversations with partners about what that could mean in terms of visions, in effect, for individual sites, for individual services, for things like the digital offer within Inspire. How can they grow on what they've learnt and use that effectively to support the wider service, whether that's into community hub type arrangements or other things. So I think that those conversations are already happening behind the scenes because we need to know what it is we want to deliver. But I think it'll be the sort of early to middle part of next year before we get into anything that's got any meat on the bones, in effect. Clearly we'll be dealing with individual sites, individual requests and individual issues, and we'll be bringing that back through either this group or as individual conversations with members where they're directly affected as well.
Thanks, Mick. Councillor Daniel Williamson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Might be about to cheer you up a little bit, Councillor Guilfoyle, because I'm going to get parochial in a minute. By and large, I welcome the strategy. I think it's great. I've quite hold my hands up, as you well know, Chair. I've criticised this council for its lack of cultural ambition in areas before. But overall, I do support this. I do have to say, going back to one of my favourite themes, really, that barring mention of our library services and Inspire, I don't feel the arts and the more performing arts hardly get a mention in this document. I appreciate there's a final strategy to come back, but there's very little in it about how we would support aspiring musicians, actors, artists and others. And I do still look forward to the presentation from the Inspire group that we were told would come to a committee. I don't know if I'm missing anything in any other areas where it might be mentioned. I mean, I know members of this committee last time chose not to support a feasibility study into a talented artist programme. But I would expect a little bit more support for those areas, or a bit more of a stretched out strategic vision for those services. The other thing that I mentioned, obviously there's a few specific projects mentioned here, but for myself to comment, although it isn't in this, I would hope that on the final strategy, when it comes back, that we could have mention and inclusion of the Mill Waters project, which is currently going on between Mansfield and Ashfield. I think it's going to be it's a fantastic project that would really show up the social and natural heritage that there is in that part of the county, and it is also something that fits in with a lot of national funding bodies, and something that we can get money for, and they have place identities in strategies, as we've gone in the report. Could I just ask that Mill Waters is included, or it's given a thought in the final strategy uptake as to whether it could be included in this, and just have it as a mention in any final strategy if there is work we can do there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Adams, did you want to come in?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, just very simple plea, really. I'd like to come and have a look around some of the sites, and if that's all right, and just I was glad to see the mention, obviously, throughout, with my other, if I can borrow my other hat for a minute, talking about the environment strategy and that sort of thing around the things that we're looking at, and I'd love to come and see some of those things in action. So that's really it, if that'd be possible to organise. Thank you so much for the work in the report as well. Putting the words together is part of the battle, isn't it? So thank you very much for that too.
Thank you. Councillor Allen?
I have to say things. If you want to see some culture, I hope you've got your tickets for the Inspire concert on December the 6th. It's wonderful to see. And as regarding visits, I have visited these places. I visited the workshop in Mansfield and many other things that are going on. I go to almost everything that is publicised here. So my husband's exposed to quite a bit of poetry, really, and to it recently. And to his amazement, quite enjoyed it, and he's looking for some more. Many small plays and more dramas that are put on that I cannot emphasise enough. But the music and the talent that is there is for you to see. You just have to go and look for it. And as I said, get your ticket for the concert.
Thank you very much. Thank you, mate. Yeah, if you want to come back. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, absolutely. Anybody's welcome to go and look at the sites. We can organise visits if people have got specific things they want to look at. Just quickly on the sort of cultural side of things, it's probably worth mentioning that ourselves, Derek and myself, and obviously colleagues from Ashfield, as well as Inspire, are involved in the Mansfield and Ashfield Cultural Compact offer, which is still working its way through, I think, in terms of what that's going to be, but that will help, hopefully, to provide some specific support and promotion of cultural engagement and offers around the Mansfield and Ashfield area. And obviously from an Inspire side, they're working on, again, the improvements to Sutton Library to look at the theatre and the opportunities for that. So there is quite a lot happening outside of that, and we do recognise, obviously, that outside of the things that we directly run within our bit of the service, the County Council and partners have got a number of other cultural activities and offers around, particularly around the mill, and we as a county have the mill adventure base within that overall wider office, so I'm sure we can find a way of weaving that into the report somewhere, if that's helpful.
Derek, you want to come back? Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mick.
Just to pick up members on Councillor Adams' question around site visits, there's an opportunity after the next meeting of this committee on the 15th of December, where you'll all be fresh from visiting the Inspire Christmas concert, but there'll be a further opportunity directly after the meeting for members to visit our archive service, which is just up the road or over the river in Nottingham City. I'm not sure if that invitation has already gone out or not, but if it hasn't, it's imminent, and I'd certainly encourage members to attend the visit to the archives building, because what you'll see there is a demonstration of the real value of that service, and I can guarantee that it'll be really interesting as well. So I'd encourage colleagues to take part in that visit if at all possible.
Thanks, Derek. Yeah, invites have gone out for both events, the tour of archives and the Christmas concert at the Royal Concert Hall. And I would say that there is a wow factor going to archives. We've got, going back hundreds of years, some of the stuff will be on display for you to have a look at. So it'll be a good opportunity if you can go. Okay. Any other comments? No? Okay, we'll get to the vote then. All those in favour of the recommendation, please show. Thank you. That's unanimous. Item 7, modern slavery and human trafficking statement. I think, is that with you, Mark? Yes. Thank you.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Chair. So the Modern Slavery Act requires employers to produce an annual statement containing certain information, and that's set out in the paragraph 7 of the report. The County Council clearly abhors modern slavery and is committed to raising awareness of the impact of modern slavery and human trafficking. And because of that, and as such, the council puts a lot of effort into undertaking due diligence in procurement practices, good contract management, and also requires staff to undertake awareness training, and also in how they can report any cases. And there's some examples in paragraph 16 of that. Examples of tackling modern slavery is set out in paragraph 24, and again illustrate really the importance of working across partnerships, across agencies to tackle it and support vulnerable people. And so the report in front of you today really is to agree an updated modern slavery statement that's attached as Appendix A to the report and to approve its publication. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mark. So I will propose the recommendation, which is 1, considers and agrees the update statement at Appendix A of the report, which demonstrates the Council's commitment to ensuring that there are no victims of slavery or human trafficking employed directly by the Council and in its commissioned services or supply chains. 2, to approve the publication of the updated statement on the Council's website. And 3, consider an additional information that members would like to receive. So I propose that recommendation. Ask for a seconder, please.
Seconded, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Thank you. Councillor Guilford.
Chairman, fully support the policy. What I would like to see, Chairman, we've got 2 examples contained within the report today, paras 24, and clearly show 2, nasty cases that have happened in this county. For me, though, I know that there's more going off, because that's one of the problems with it. It's hidden, a lot of it. There's more going off right around the county, and I just wondered whether perhaps sometime early in the new year we could actually have a full report on the cases that have occurred, and perhaps touch on the districts and the areas that they are. So, what cases are in Bassetlaw, what cases are elsewhere, and if there aren't any cases in Bassetlaw, then I want to know why there are, why we haven't uncovered any. Because I'm sure, as anybody else will tell you, it's happening. It's happening sometimes in front of us, but we don't realise, and that's the problem with this human trafficking. It could be happening just down the street from you. It mentions Cuckooing, and I do know of issues around Cuckooing that's happening within Bassetlaw and elsewhere that's occurred. But I think if members could see that highlighted, and perhaps even have a number of cases that, because it doesn't really say I don't think within the report tells us the actual overall number of cases that's been investigated, just so we get that feel of how big the problem is, because this is not going to go away unless we really tackle it. And I know a lot of work is going out there, being done by all the agencies involved, including the County Council. But I still think more could be done, and I think a lot of it is about making the public aware. And I think if we highlighted some of those cases, the public would be more aware and would know what to look for as well. And I think that's the thing that we need to get over.
Thanks, Glenn. Mark, would you like to come back on that, please? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sure. Yes, we can do a full report on the cases that have occurred. We'll take a look at the work programme and what other reports we're bringing to various committees, and we'll put something in the calendar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Elizabeth Williamson, thank you.
Thank you. So I welcome the renewal of this statement. Tens of thousands of people are victims of trafficking and exploitation in the UK today. I would encourage anyone concerned about modern slavery and human trafficking to download the app Unseen or call 08000 121 700. This provides a guide to recognising the signs of slavery and makes reporting it to Unseen's modern slavery helpline easy. I welcome the fact that this year Nottinghamshire Police has hired 6 new officers to tackle modern slavery. The 6 officers have been added to the force as county lines and modern slavery proactive teams who work to crack down on serious and organised crime networks who pull young or vulnerable people into a criminal underworld to peddle drugs or carry out forced labour. So I welcome this statement. Sorry, I apologise for my voice. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Mark, are we okay to put some, I don't know what information's on the website, whether some contact numbers for that Councillor Williamson mentioned would be available there?
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that away and yeah, pick that up with the team and see what content that we've got and make sure it's up to date and relevant.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll go to the vote then. Those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And then item 8. I'll get the right page. Update on key trading standards and community matters. The recommendation is on page 73 and considers the update and highlights the actions required specifically in respect to income generation. 2, ratifies the post-EU exit business support work. And 3, agrees the completion date for the capital-funded LIS projects be extended to the 31st of March 2022. I propose that recommendation and look for a seconder.
Happy to second, Chairman.
Thank you. I got it right. Okay, over to you, Mark. Oh, no. It's Fiona. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks. So this is an update on the work of trading standards and the community service since July 2021 when we brought our last update. So if I can just draw your attention to paragraph 5, preventing fraud against the vulnerable. So we're continuing with our doorstep crime prevention and awareness work with hairdressers and barbers in identified hotspot areas being approached to share prevention material with their clients via a poster, but also to encourage reporting if they believe their client has been the subject of a doorstep crime. So far, we've visited over 50 premises in Newark, Mansfield and Lincroft Eastwood, with very positive feedback and engagement. Paragraph 9 for food safety. From the 1st of October 2021, we've had the introduction of Natasha's Law, where all foods that are pre-packed for consumption will have to contain a full ingredients list on their labelling, emphasising allergens. So officers in conjunction with the comms team have put out an extensive campaign to target businesses that the new law will apply to offer support to them, but we've only had or dealt with 13 inquiries so far. However, work in this area will continue with officers making visits to premises later in the year to gain compliance and secure protection for consumers. On the subject of allergens, the team have had more complaints reported to them than ever before. So we've had 24 in total, but with 8 serious incidents where some consumers have had to be hospitalised from eating food products containing undeclared ingredients. Each one means a lot of work taking place in conjunction with the Food Standards Agency, who complete a risk assessment and decide on the best course of action, whether it's a product recall or withdrawal, with Trading Standards ensuring that this happens by working with the business. In relation to paragraph 40 in explosives and fireworks, officers are out and about as we speak, inspecting premises in relation to the safe storage of fireworks coming up to bonfire night. So far, 35 inspections have been carried today and for the rest of the week. So this week, officers have already found unsafe throwdown fireworks, which are subject to compulsory withdrawal from the market nationally. As a result of Trading Standards interventions locally, the unsafe fireworks have been removed from sale and steps have been taken to identify operators in the supply chain to contribute to the removal of the unsafe product from the UK market. And we've also responded to the report of a suspected unlicensed premises. However, on inspection, was found to be storing a minimal amount of fireworks and under the licensing threshold. In relation to paragraph 43, the post-EU exit business support, officers have started with the intelligence and market surveillance work that sits behind this project. This will result in a targeted approach to NOTS traders being identified as importing any type of food or non-food, where their obligations might have changed due to the EU withdrawal. The team are also liaising with comms colleagues about the media campaign to contact local NOTS traders via social media and other means. And any traders approaching us can benefit from the funded advice provided their inquiry relates to post-EU exit changes. And as the impact is so wide-ranging, most inquiries will be eligible for this advice. In relation to paragraph 59, the Local Improvement Scheme capital funding, the request to the committee is to extend the completion deadline of projects until the 31st of March 2022, as opposed to the 31st of December 2021, so that the few projects outstanding can complete. There are approximately 11 outstanding out of the 70 projects that were funded. And finally, at paragraph 66, 2021 marks the centenary of Remembrance Day, the Poppy Appeal and the Royal British Legion. Councillor Quigley is going to lead a small service at County Hall on Wednesday the 11th of November and has been invited to lay a wreath at Victoria Embankment on Sunday the 14th of November on behalf of the County Council to honour the fallen of both World Wars and subsequent conflicts. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Fiona. The recommendations are on page 73, and number 1 considers the update and highlights any actions required, specifically in respect to income generation. 2 ratifies the post-EU exit business support work, and 3 agrees that the completion date for the capital funded LIS projects be extended to the 31st of March 2022. I propose that recommendation and ask for a seconder, please.
Happy to second, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from councillors? Councillor Wheeler, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. On the item of food safety, with the law change with Natasha's law from the 1st of October, I know from my own business where having to change the way you're doing labelling is, it's quite a laborious task, and the law itself is very complex. It completely changes if you serve something with a lid on or you don't put the lid on, and the labelling itself was quite specific what you need to do. So knowing that there will be a lot of businesses who I never really had to do this before, you know, maybe like you say, like the market stalls, like trading out of a van. What's been the feedback from the teams on the ground over the last couple of months in terms of compliance and any issues that have come back at all? Because it's really important we do this. I absolutely understand why it was obviously done after the death of a poor girl who the packaging wasn't correct and died as a result of an allergy. So I completely understand why. I think we just need to look at the law. It looks complex, and you know what support we're giving to these traders. We don't want to penalise them for perhaps just not understanding it in detail. I know there's been quite a big media campaign, but I'll be honest, like I say, I had to reread it about 5 times with a strong cup of coffee before I got my head around it. And I think it's just really important that I understand what issues we're getting back from the business on the ground.
Thank you. Do you want to come back on that, Fiona? Or do you, yes, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I can do, yes. So at
Thanks.
the moment, what we're offering to businesses is a support package really for them. So we're offering them support, advice about the legislation, as you say, because it is quite detailed and you have to get your head around it. What we're going to do later on in the year is to go out and do some visits to premises to find out what they're struggling with, and we will support them. You know, that's our main aim, to support businesses to comply with the legislation. Obviously, if there is continuing issues to a particular premise and they're not adhering to our advice, then obviously that would be a different matter. But our main aim is to support them initially.
Thank you, Fiona. Councillor Saddington, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Having had my own catering business for over 20 years, which I have to say I don't have any longer, I've retired from it, you are extremely busy. And if new regulations come into force, you need to be able to access them quickly, understand them quickly, and know that you're conforming with the law, because you will be very quickly picked up if you don't. So when you say a communications package for somebody who's busy, is it bullet pointed? Because it's so much quicker to read, as Jonathan's just alluded to, cups need lids if, cups do not need lids if. It's so much quicker to read a bullet point package than to have a rambling of words which you've got to plough through, which Jonathan himself said it took him 5 times to understand it. There are people who are busy on market stalls that may not have that kind of time, whereas if they bullet point, it's so much quicker in anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Fiona?
Our communications package has obviously been sent out to tell businesses that we are there to support them. It's difficult to put all the legislation down into bullet points, to be fair, because obviously different businesses will have different aspects that they need to comply with. But I can make sure that something does go out in relation to bullet points in the future, because I understand what you're saying. It is complicated.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Guilfoyle?
Yeah, thank you, Fiona, for a very comprehensive report on what the service is doing. Just in relation to fireworks, I'm sure many members will probably say that they've been hearing fireworks going off for the last month or so. In reality, you end up getting a lot of complaints from individuals who get fed up. I mean, last night, I think it was about 10:30, up in an area where just loads of fireworks are just being set off. I wondered if if there was any changes imminent relating to the legislation on fireworks. I know that I'm sure we've had resolutions come through here asking for the bangs off fireworks to be taken away. We don't want to spoil people's fun in one sense, but some of it's the noise that's emitted that's more of a problem, or even come down to the fact that actually they're not for public sale and that you have to have a license in reality to get one. So if you're going to do a public display, then you would go to the local authority and you would get a public display license for that. But you could not go to a store and buy, because that's where the problem is. The problem is that, whether it be Sainsbury's, you could name all the supermarkets, they sell fireworks, and individuals, we know, that 18-year-olds or whatever will go and buy them and give them to some 16-year-old. And that's the real problem. So I think, we've really got to get a grip to that. And I just wondered if there was any legislation. The other one, which really isn't a question to you, Fran, it's actually to the chairman, it's just a reminder for me, is events in the sense of next year there's a major event which is the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, and I just wondered whether any thought had been given to what we as a county council were doing around that. I think it's been mentioned before, but I can't remember. It's not. I don't think it's in the paperwork. And just wondered, one of the things I've been asked is, are there going to be any grants? I know people have mentioned about street closures and things like that, which the county council will have to be involved in. And there's sometimes a charge for that sometimes. I just wonder whether that's going to be waived or whatever. But the other side is, people who want to put events on sometimes need a little bit of help and assistance financially to do that, whether the county council is going to be bringing out any specific grants for that.
Thanks, Glyn. If I go back to Fiona first on the question about the fireworks and any change in the law at the moment, I'll go to you with that.
Yeah, that's fine. No, there's no changes that we know of at the moment that are coming through. I understand what you're saying, and I think that the same issues seem to happen each year in relation to fireworks. So, but there's nothing immediate at the moment.
Okay, thank you. And before I come to Derek, if I go over to Councillor Saddington, you want to come back on something, I believe?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think the problem with the fireworks is obviously we don't want to spoil pleasure for the youngsters, because we've all enjoyed it when we were younger. But I think what is happening, the fireworks are probably going on sale far too early, which is allowing people to have access to them and blow them around the vicinity in which they live in. I think also, as a county council, we are a highly rural county council. We have horses out at night, and we have other animals who are very frightened of all the bangs. And I think if we could perhaps refer to government and ask them to look at it, because if they weren't sold as early, if they were only sold a few days before, it would limit the time at which they've got to be able to fire the things around. And also, it would protect the animals, which I think is very important. It's terrible to see frightened animals from these things.
Thank you very much. Derek, do you want to come in on your piece?
Yeah, just to pick up on the question, Councillor Guildford, about the Queen's Diamond Jubilee next spring, next summer. Yes, we are looking to pull together some plans to coordinate our support for that, and that will include taking an approach to road closures, and we're already starting to receive guidance from government around that to support street parties and so on, and colleagues are doing some work on that. We're also looking to explore how we can think about funding support for communities around celebrations for the Diamond Jubilee as well. And we've also appointed a kind of senior lead officer for our work as well, which coincidentally is Mark Walker, who's with us this morning. So Mark might wish to say a few things about the work that he's been doing as well.
And on cue, I'll go to Mark, shall I?
Right.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for that. Yes, for the Platinum Jubilee, we've got a planning group that's coming together. We're meeting with the Vice Lord Lieutenant. We have a meeting actually on the 11th of November at County Hall, where we're going to meet with partners to start to put the detail round the plan, to meet with the Lord Lieutenant and Anthony May to run them through the sort of finalised plan for the celebrations for Nottinghamshire. So yeah, all of the issues that you've raised, we'll be talking about. We've already had some initial conversations about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Let's go to the vote then. Those in favour of the recommendations, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Fiona. Item 9 is the work programme. Can we agree the programme? Is there any items that people wish to question, add, take out, whatever? Any comments? No, thank you very much. Thank you for your attendance today and your input. And we'll see you at the Communities Committee in December. Thank you.